Good morning. So today I wanted to talk about the posing of the Idaho college murder victims. I saw a news article that came up in my news feed. Now, a lot of you right now are probably saying to yourself, well, Kenny, you say you never watch the news. You sure do a lot of videos about what you see in the news. Touche. And I'll explain that real quick. I don't watch news per se, like television news. I don't actually even have television other than HBO streaming service, and I think Netflix that I watch every now and again. I couldn't even watch my own television show when it first came out. That's how sad it is. I did watch it. I ended up getting it on Amazon, I think, and I had to pay for it. So thanks to Oxygen and NBC for that. I digress. Every now and again, when I get through working, whatever it is, researching a case, being outside now, shoveling and plowing our 10 inches of snow, I have to come in and rest. And as I get older, I have to do that more often than not anymore. So when I sit down on the couch, instead of turning on the television, which I did 20 years ago, I pull out my phone and Yahoo newsfeed pops up. And it's tailored, I think, it obviously is, to whatever I click into, because the only two things I get on that newsfeed really is cold case stuff and sports. So when I sit down and I look at that, those things come up. So the other day, I did a video about the stab wounds, and you can check that out if you would like. That validated me a little bit, but personally, it validated me because I know the number of stab wounds have no relationship to whether the offender knows the victims. But this one came up and said that the Idaho victims were posed. So obviously I clicked into that. So if you haven't read that, the briefs cliff notes on that is that Dr. Brent Turvey stated for the defense that the victims were posed based on blood pattern that he saw, I believe, on a pillow, and that a comforter was thrown over top of them. Now we're talking about victims, um, Maggie, Maddie. I'm sorry. The older I get, the more horrible I am with names and remembering things. Um, and then obviously the person who I thought was, and still kind of feel is, the target of this attack. I'll try to pronounce it right. Gonclaves. So I don't know Brent Turvey. I know his name has been out there a lot. Now, a couple of things that I quasi know, and this is the reason I'm speaking on it, is because I dealt with it personally and heard it personally. It's not secondhand stuff. When I first got into this law enforcement investigative cold case type of business, it's been 20 years now. The first person that I ended up like hooking up with and researching or talking and actually getting invited to his house was a guy named Richard Walters. Now, Richard Walters was, I guess he still is, a founding member of the VDOC Society, which is a great cold case organization. I'd reached out to him on a case. We shared some phone calls, and then I actually went to his house. And he was a peculiar individual, but he treated me very well. Then we lost touch for whatever reason it was. But for the time that I was reaching out to him for my case, he treated me well. Drove all the way up from where he lived, all the way up to the district attorney's office where I was working, and helped me present my case to the district attorney. So, anyhow, that was my connection with Richard Walters. Well, I know that through my interactions with Richard that he did not like Brent Turvey. And the reason I know this is because at that time I was enrolled for my master's degree in forensic criminology. And the course I was taking at the time was criminal profiling. And the textbook was a book from Brent Turvey. And I had mentioned this to him, to Richard, and he said, my boy, he's like, you need to get a new teacher or something to that effect. If they're teaching his methodology, you're going down the wrong road. But I got to be honest with you. I've read a lot of criminal profiling books in my career. And that's got to be one of the best ones that I've ever read. His methodology, at least in that textbook, I understood and it made sense. And I have used that methodology combined with, Rob Resslers and Richard Walters and James Douglas, all those, Mary Ellen O'Toole, Mark Safarig, Jim Clemente, all the people that I have studied to incorporate it all into my methodology. But I really, really enjoyed Brent Turvey's interpretations. And hey, he may be a jerk. I don't know. Never met the guy. But I just know that I enjoyed that. Now, I know he had worked on other cases such as West Memphis 3. That's the one that comes to my mind. But he obviously did work on this Idaho murders. So the posing of the body. Would I be surprised? It's not definitive. He said it appears. Now, I have a problem with the wording there. They're either staged or they're not. Could they have been in the process of being staged and then something happened? Xana coming up into the room, hear a noise, and you stop? Yes. But to say that they were posed because of a bloodstain pattern, I'm not so sure about that. Because how do you know that that's not movement? Okay, it's dark in there. One of the victims, both victims obviously being stabbed repeatedly. They're moving about, or you're moving about on top of them, creating, it's a fluid situation. So you're creating movement. And how do you know that movement, that bloodstain pattern is not from movement versus staging? It makes me believe that they were not staged, to be honest with you. Because staging is pretty black and white. Now, the one interesting fact there that I do grab a hold of is that they were covered with a blanket, a comforter. Now, see, and that is another myth that has to be exposed. So I always get the question, how do you become a cold case detective? Ken Mains, how did you become a cold case detective? Well, I had that in mind a long time ago, over 10 years ago. And I got the answer right here. Mastering Cold Case Investigations, a guidebook for detectives. I wrote this 550-page behemoth for that purpose. Because when I was in high school, when I was in college, and then when I became a detective, I wanted to know more about cold cases, why they go cold, Why are they unsolved? Is it evidence? Is it lack of determination? Is it perseverance? Is it politics? All the above. Well, I set the answer to all those questions in my new book. It's been 10 years of research, writing, jotting down things. I knew that I was going to write this book eventually. And it finally has come to a head where I'm able to actually get it done, get it published by Unsolved No More Publishing, and get it out to you. So who's this book for? It's for detectives. It's for amateur detectives. It's for college students, academia, forensics. The topics I cover in this book, from what is a cold case, victimology, research, crime scene location, criminal profiling, conflict, greed, sex and revenge, possibilities versus probabilities. That is huge in this book. I go through that a lot because that's the basis and foundation of my methodology. Evidence, sketches. Of course, you have affirmations. Why should you listen? Social media, the rule of psychology, equivocal deaths, modus operandi, signature. Legal and ethical considerations in cold cases, integrity, involving as a cold case detective, serial killers, missing persons, domestic violence, exposing myths, premeditation versus spontaneous, confidential informants, wrongly convicted, clandestine graves, you name it. I cover it in here. 550-page hardcover textbook. And along with all those topics, I also wanted to do case studies, especially case studies on confessions. Why? Because you can learn so much from confessions. At the end of the book, I go in great detail about killers in general who have confessed, why they did it, and what we can learn. That's always the most important thing, what we can learn from them and move forward and apply what we learned on that case to a future case. So I have all that. I tried to incorporate as much as I could, and there's a lot in there about real life cases that I have worked on and I have either solved or learned something from. And I'll tie that to a specific chapter, along with tips, certain things that I think you should look for in certain areas. It's a great book to learn from, but it's not just for active law enforcement members, private investigators, defense attorneys. Everybody can learn from this book. And that is what is motivated me to write this, is I want people to learn. I am tired of seeing wrongfully convicted people. I'm tired of the politics of district attorneys' offices and state police and local jurisdictions who either don't have the resources to do it or they just pass it off because they don't know how, they don't want to, they don't have the desire, the determination. And all that does is affect the victims and the victims' families. And I see it time and time again. You will see endorsements and affirmations from victims' family members in here who I've worked with in the past because they are the most important people. To pass off what I have learned to you. So you can be a great investigator, you can be a great detective, and you can solve cases just like I do. Get your copy now. I'll sign it. I'll get it out to you and start learning. That way we can start solving cold cases together. Back in the 1960s and 70s when Rob Ressler and James Douglas went out and did all this research and talked to all these serial killers. And Ann Burgess, please, I can't leave her out. The thought was, why do you cover your victim's face? And it's always been because they're showing remorse. That's an outdated theory, folks. Is it for some? Absolutely. But do you think Brian Kohberger had remorse for these two victims and that's why he covered them with a comforter? If he in fact did, that's what I read. No. So why is he doing? Is that part of staging? I don't have a good answer for that. I would tend to say that it wasn't due to remorse. Now, I do know that sometimes that is done because the offender is cleaning up and they don't want the victims to look at them. That's not the case here. He wasn't cleaning up, it was dark. So, sometimes in the offender's mind, it's to delay notification. It's to delay the finding of the victim. Like that's going to work. You know what I mean? But in their mind, sometimes it is. Only Brian Koberger has the answer to that. Okay, so I'm not going to try to answer it. I just know that it doesn't appear to me that they were posed. But hey, Brent Turvey was there, or at least looked at the photographs more than I did, so I'll trust his judgment on it. Another thing that I want to bring up is the video that I did the other day on the stab wounds. That's gotten a lot of positive feedback to me. And one of the emails that I received was from one of the Idaho 4's victims' parents. And that really struck a nerve with me. It was a positive thing. They thanked me so much for doing what I do and doing it with integrity and no sensationalism. And that's what I've been trying to get across ever since I started talking on this channel. That they shouldn't be treated as entertainment. And to get an email from, them to say, hey, thank you for being different than the others and showing, empathy and doing things the right way. And it just meant the world to me. And it just reiterated why I do this. Because sometimes I doubt it. I doubt myself, meaning, listen, what am I doing? There's other things in life that I should be doing. But then I start thinking, this is what you love to do. This is what you were born to do. So just do it. Just you like looking at cases, and people like hearing me give my opinion on it. So just continue to do it. And that email that I got just confirmed that I'm doing the right thing. And it meant a lot to me. So if you're watching this, know that your email meant a lot to me. So with that said, posing of the body, not sure it happened, but I got to take Brent Turvey's word for it. And I just know that if he did pose them, it should be obvious. Okay? Usually, whatever it is, it should be obvious. If they're propped up against the wall, if their legs are spread, it's, obviously sending a sexual message and meant to shock. There's 100 different ways we could go on this. I just don't know if you have to guess based off a bloodstain pattern that the victims are posed. I just have a hard time saying that they weren't or that they were. But that's it. I just wanted to jump on here and talk about that real quick. Please, hey, I'm doing a series about Joe Naso. No one seems to be interested in it. I'm going to continue to do it because I did a television show about it, which was very well received. So I'm doing multiple episodes, going through every single one of Joe Naso's murders and the ones that people don't know about and ones that I need your help on because he had thousands of photographs, which I'm trying to identify victims for the family members. So during the course of this series, I'm showing you, search warrant photos, photos that were never released before by the investigators that I have access to, all in order to try to get closure to some of these missing persons and cold cases. So tune in to the NASO files. Go look for them and keep your eye out, because I'm releasing, it seems like every day that I'm doing one. So thanks for watching. Mains out.